A terrible way to come into this world. Unfortunately, it is becoming all too common. This is especially true in my home state of West Virginia. The good news is doctors, nurses, and community leaders are developing innovative treatments for these babies. One example is Lily's Place, a pediatric recovery center that I helped start in my hometown of Huntington. There, doctors and nurses use the best treatments and therapies available to help babies suffering from withdrawal. And parents can get counseling. Centers like Lily's Place offer hope for mothers seeking to turn their lives around, mothers like Cassidy Falls of Huntington. When describing her fight against drug addiction,
I'm Joe Gomez, USA Radio News. For more breaking news, check out westernjournalism.com.
We're here to fix the machine.
Battlefield Live.
You're listening to the Battlefield Live with Chris and Trey from Lanterns Radio Network and WGSO 990 New Orleans. I want to thank you for joining us today. And actually, I mentioned Trey, and Trey is not here. The last time we spoke, we did have a Trey sighting. And Trey, I believe, today is doing some underwear modeling to something to that effect. But here nor there, we're still going to do a jam-packed show today, and we got a ton of things to talk about. But in here in New Orleans, we actually have the Jazz Fest going on, and I don't know if there's any festers out there, if there's any stories to be told. We've only, I guess we're into our third day of Jazz Fest, and I had an interesting experience last night. I figured I could share with you all. I have a 15-year-old, and I, as a teenager, remember being at his age, being a big fan of the Smashing Pumpkins, and if you're not familiar with Smashing Pumpkins, Chicago band, kind of played around the, I guess you could say, the grunge era with Nirvana and Soundgarden, all the bands that came out of the Seattle scene. And I just thought it would be fun. It'd be kind of fun to take my son to see the Smashing Pumpkins, and they're innocent enough that he's not going to get a bunch of sex, drugs, and rock and roll type of stuff. And so we bought him tickets a while back and decided that we were going to take this venture into the city. And the show started about 9 o'clock, and we got there a little bit early, and I got me an Abita beer, love Abita, and had me a Abita Amber, and kind of sit there talking with him, just sharing some stories of when I used to go to concerts when I was a kid, and noticed there was a lot of people starting to file in, and went and sat down at our seats. And the show started about 9 o'clock, and there was a gal that started. Her name was Liz Fair. If you're not familiar with her, she was also from around that time. Really talented musician, and she did her set, which is about a half an hour long. And then Smashing Pumpkins came out. Now, if you're not familiar with Smashing Pumpkins, just think of the name. They're a pretty heavy. I shouldn't say heavy rock group, but they do play a lot of alternative avant-garde type sounds. And so I was expecting an acoustic show because that's where they advertised it. But I was hoping to also see some more alternative type of stuff. And the crowd, I just noticed that the crowd was really, really drunk. So you got, yeah. So that doesn't play well during an acoustic show. And I think that whether or not the crowd that was there realized that it was going to be an acoustic show, it didn't go very well. In fact, Billy Corgan, who's the lead singer of the band, it kind of, I guess, in a I don't know, subtle, maybe backhanded way, mentioned that was asking the crowd if this is what they expected, and you could tell he was somewhat agitated. There was a guy in between songs that kept saying, calling the guy's name out when it was really quiet. He was doing an acoustic show, and I was sitting on the edge of the row, the center section, the orchestra section, as they call it in the Saenger, and I can say that every person from the center over to my end of the aisle had to have gotten up at least 5 times each during the show. And I don't know if that was to go bathroom breaks, go get more alcohol. I don't know what it was, but I got kind of agitated myself. And then I started realizing after all the years that I've been to concerts that this was a crowd that was unruly. At the end of the show, they had a guy that came up and he was, flipping the bird to Billy Corgan on stage. I mean, he was just really, really rowdy. And then I realized, man, it's Jazz Fest weekend. Probably half of these people in here are on their 12th beer or more, and or other things. And it just, to me, it was just kind of chaotic, and it really kind of stunk. And that's actually what it was kind of like. It was like a war in there. I mean, people were just moving around. They had this one girl, I bet she went up and down the aisle 15 times, and by the 15th time, she was using the chairs to her left as a guide, if you will. Kind of like, when you go to the bowling alley with your kids or grandkids, or your friend has kids, and they put up the bumpers. That way the bowling ball doesn't go into the gutter, if you will. Well, she was using the chairs or the seats to each side of the aisle as that bumper guide to keep from going off track. So I don't know. I just thought it was kind of interesting. So if any of you all experienced any of that, I'd love to hear from you. And you can actually give us a call here at the show at 504-556-9696. Love to hear from you, or if there's any festers out there. And so, in a couple other topics that I wanted to get into today, we've been hearing a lot about this bathroom situation going on in I guess it's North Carolina, where they passed this bill. It was supposedly really hard. At least that's the way that Donald Trump said it. There was a hard bill that people ought to, and Trump even said that people ought to be able to use whatever bathroom they feel like they wish to use. And so I guess that means if I feel like going into a women's bathroom, I can just go into a women's bathroom whenever I wish. So we got that kind of stuff that's been floating around there. And it's getting really interesting between the Cruz and Trump folks, because they're constantly going back and forth. And I just find it amusing that Donald Trump is now playing to the liberal side of the ideological ledger, if you will, because he's going into states like Kentucky and Maryland. I'm sorry, not Kentucky, Connecticut and Maryland and Rhode Island, and all these liberal bastions of totalitarianism. And just find it funny that he's doing. He's also mentioned, I think that both of these comments were made on the Today Show. He mentioned that he was in favor of raising taxes on the wealthy. And, of course, whenever I hear that, my first question is, what is wealthy, right? Since it's I guess you could say, a relative term. And if you ask anybody what rich is or what wealthy is, you're going to get a different definition for many of those individuals. So, to me, not only is the comment problematic by Donald Trump, but also the premise of being that he's going to tax the wealthy is simply, to me, he's pandering to the liberal establishment. So when we're talking about, I guess, the idea of what happened at this concert yesterday, Smashing Pumpkins, and also talking about the bathroom situation, this liberal tendency that Donald Trump has, I, as I guess a student of Western culture, always try to analyze these type of things, and sometimes they're not mutually exclusive. To me, this whole bathroom situation is more than just a couple of people having a temper tantrum. Actually, people that are trying to do something else. They have an agenda. We talked about that on this program before, and I definitely want to get into that. In fact, I got a very interesting article that I wrote quite a bit back about whether or not your sexual orientation is a choice. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that get really worked up over this topic, but I think it's these kind of topics that people need to talk about. When I go to a party or I go to talk to friends, I generally get frustrated with small talk. I do engage in small talk, and this is not to be, I guess, condescending or anything of that nature, but I do enjoy, I guess the better way to say it, talking about substantive things. And I do like talking about things like, whether or not we have the free will or choice to decide whether or not we are who we are. So if we can choose to be or identify as a male or female, or we can choose to identify as being attracted to men or women. I think that's an interesting battlefield for us to enter onto. So stick with us on the battlefield. Make sure if you're interested in this stuff or have any comments about Jazz Fest or what happened last night at the Smashing Pumpkin Show here in New Orleans, give us a call, 504-556-9696. You're listening to Chris Pilier on the Battlefield Live radio program, WGSO 990 AM. Thank you for joining us.
Here's a little piece of verse that carries a wise message. If your lips you would keep from slips, 5 things observe with care. Of whom you speak, to whom you speak, and how, and when, and where. I don't know who wrote this rhyme, but he or she may have been reading a verse in the Bible that says, be slow to speak. All of us have had the experience of saying something and immediately wishing we hadn't. But words once spoken are gone forever, and if they were hurtful or unwise words, our regret is all the more real. This is David Jeremiah, encouraging you to get on the road to new life. Discover God's way with words on Route 66.
Route 66, driving the word home. Log on to Route66Life.com and get your roadmap for life. Route 66. Start your journey home today.
The Bible affirms that people of faith, like the early Pilgrims, are a moral beacon for our nation. Political leaders dismantle the Constitution, deny our God-given rights while implementing their New World Order. The modern pulpit is silenced, and people of faith are unaware of the tactics used to undermine the biblical foundation of America. For solutions to win our country back, shining a light exposing their globalist tactics while revealing the best Pilgrim solutions. Visit pilgrimsbeacon.com. That's pilgrimsbeacon.com.
This advertisement does not constitute an offer to sell a franchise. The offer of a franchise can only be made through the delivery of a franchise disclosure document.
Fresh Healthy Vending is a new company that is revolutionizing the vending machine business by filling them with healthy and natural foods. That's right. Protein and energy drinks, teas and juices, yogurts, fresh fruits and veggies, soy milk, natural cereals, granola bars. Can you imagine that? It's like having a whole food store in a machine. And you can get in on the ground floor by getting your own Fresh Healthy Vending franchise. You can have your own small business placing healthy food vending machines all over your area in places like schools and hospitals and businesses and airports and other high-traffic areas. Locations that embrace the idea because, they make money too. Full training and support and assistance in acquiring locations. It's all about timing, folks. Pick up the phone, make the call to Fresh Healthy Vending, and get all the details on what could be your big life moment. Get Fresh Healthy Vending franchise information now. Call 800-424-8282. 424-8282. That's 800-424-8282.
Hi, this is Jim Spyro. Join me every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. here on WGSO as we cover all the hot issues of the day. Obama, Harry Reid, the congressional Republican majority, the dysfunction in Congress, surveillance by the NSA, Iran, ISIS, and Afghanistan. All as we prepare for the presidential election in 2016. Listen in to our special guests from both sides of the aisle as we debate experts on issues relating to health care, the budget, national defense, and the U.S. Constitution. We never pull any punches, and of course we take your calls throughout the hour, so make it a point to join us each and every Wednesday, 5 to 6 here on WGSO. See you then.
We're here to fix the machine.
Little Nirvana there for you folks. And you're on the battlefield with Chris and Trey. And I saw the Smashing Pumpkins last night in New Orleans. Thought it was a pretty cool show. My son had a great time. Bought a couple T-shirts, had a couple beers. Witnessed a lot of really drunk folks coming from Jazz Fest, I guess. Unless just New Orleans is always like that. They were at the Saenger, which is an absolutely beautiful venue. If you all haven't been to the Saenger Theater in New Orleans on Canal Street, they've really done a great job since Katrina. And had a really, really good time. And just found that it was a kind of a bizarre, I guess, crowd. I mean, maybe it's just that, the fact that everybody was drunk. I mean, people moving all around. Nobody was sitting still. It was just really, really bizarre. But anyway, I want to mention our social media. We do this. Trey and I actually do this Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday on Lanterns Radio Network, which you can find at Lanterns Buzz, the website Lanterns Buzz. There's a bunch of different radio hosts there. In fact, we're bringing on some great hosts. Andrew Chavaria with On Fire, with Brian Bosch. We're also bringing on Julio, who's a good friend from Talk Radio. Also, we're talking to some others, including Mike Miller from IJ Review. He's going to be doing some work with us there. Who am I forgetting? Watson Prunier. Watson Prunier is a fantastic broadcaster, great radio voice. He'll be there. And also, last but not least, Ricardo Martinez. He does the show called Torch Radio. So make sure you check out lanterns.buzz and all the different shows there. And also, make sure if you're interested in what you're hearing about, you want to get connected to us on social media, you can follow us on Twitter at LanternsBuzz. You can also follow me at Paul Revere again, and you can follow Trey at T-Rob Radio. So that's Lanterns Buzz is the show page. At Paul Revere again is my Twitter page, and Trey is at T-Rob Radio. Also follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/LanternsBuzz. You can follow me, facebook.com/Chris Pilier, and you can find us as well on YouTube and Spreaker. In fact, Spreaker, I'm actually really starting to enjoy Spreaker. There's a lot of great radio talent out there. And if you go to Spreaker, just put in the hashtag LanternsBuzz. Also, you can find us on Google, and you can get our book, Deus Ex Machina, The Progression of Secular Socialism. Some of the content that we discuss on the show is from that book. Years of research, just trying to figure out why is it the country the way it is? Why is our culture going down the path that it's going down? And it has to do with the secularization of our culture. And some of you may be saying, we could probably do away with a lot of this religious stuff. But at the end of the day, it's undermining Western culture, and that's what we talk about there. Also, you can go to Vast Virtual Solutions at vastvirtual.com. They are the company that put together lanterns.buzz, along with many other sites, including Home Performance Solutions, which is prorater.net, also cosplich.com, and other great websites like those. Vast Virtual Solutions will streamline your business as well as do some of the minimal things. If you just want a web presence, website, simple website, they can do that. Or they can build website applications that are very large in nature, of Facebook size and above. They do a fantastic job there at Vast Virtual Solutions. VastVirtual.com is the website. Last but not least, if you're looking to expand your social media presence, GoDay.media is the one-stop shop. Not only will they refine your brand, but they will also get people to follow you on social media. That's a tough job. In fact, when doing our show, we reached out to GoDay.media, and they made it just really, really easy. It was an ABC type of thing. They gave us some advice, and they even helped us cultivate the following that we have. And it's not just a bunch of mom and pops that are not interested in what we do. They're actually mom and pops that are very interested in what we do, as well as a youthful crowd and so forth. So I want to thank GoDay.media, Rob and Melissa over there. They do a fantastic job. So we're going to get back into this. We were talking about all the goofy stuff that's going on with this bathroom situation. And, a lot of people, they think that, people that are out there saying we don't need to allow men or transgendered folks to go into women's bathrooms or vice versa, into men's bathrooms. They think that it's some kind of, bigoted, discrimination or something of that nature. Look, I don't have a daughter. I have a son. I was blessed. I know I'm not saying that I would not be blessed if I had a daughter, because I would. But if I had a daughter, my biggest concern would not be the guy dressed in a dress. It would actually be the guy that just wants to go in there and try to sneak a peek, if you know what I mean. Those are the people that I'm worried about, and I would imagine that those people come in all stripes, and they could use the legalities of this transgender movement in order to protect themselves, and that's what I'm really worried about. I mean, to me, it's not that complicated, folks, on what bathroom to figure out you go in. Of course, 8 years of Obama, we can't even figure out what bathroom to go in. One of the things that I wanted to mention here, from time to time during political and philosophical discussions, I come across this question of whether or not homosexuality or heterosexuality is a choice or not. And, of course, opinions of this matter always stir up a lot of controversy. And in some cases, people get personally offended by opinions on either sides of this particular topic. And I've kind of gone back and forth on both of these. I believe both that the sexual orientation was something that we're born with and also something that we chosen. I find it very hard as an individual to say that I don't have a choice in doing what I wish. That doesn't mean that those choices are right or good choices, but I have a very hard time believing that I can just do as I wish, or I'm compelled by my nature to do something, right? I want to be able to think that I have this choice, and maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a psychologist, right? I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not somebody that does psychoanalyzation for a living. So if you're interested in this, by all means, give us a call, 504-556-9696 at the show, WGSO in New Orleans. And, of course, I have always been intrigued by our ability to choose our path in life with our brains. We're very smart creatures, if you will. And is our path chosen by our genetics? Now, think about this. You got a 5'9" tall man, let's say. I would find it much more of a challenge to be a basketball player as a 5-foot tall man like myself than somebody that was 6'9", right? So men with the same talent level, the guy with the 6'9" presence would actually be, I would think, a better basketball player, right? Now, if we could say that there's two equally talented basketball players, obviously the 6'9" guy I think would do better, right? So, but we know that talent is learned for the most part. Right, there are some aspects of different athletes and things that they gather the advantage because of just the sheer physicality of their presence. But we can train ourselves to be talented within some limits to do just about anything we want to do. I mean, how many stories have you heard about people that grew up with nothing and became doctors? I mean, look at Ben Carson, right? He put his mind to it and did it, and a lot of it was learned, right? All we have to do is research the 5'3" Tyrone Muggsy Boggs, formerly of the Charlotte Hornets, or 5'5" Earl Boykins, formerly of Denver Nuggets, or even y'all may remember this guy, 5'7" Anthony Spud Webb, right? You know these guys, fantastic basketball players, and the odds were against them. So they did learn how to be great basketball players despite the physical differences, right? So if it is our talents that are learned to some degree, couldn't we say that sexuality is also learned? It's a pretty compelling question, right? Think about it. Think about the first time, and I know this is maybe a provocative question, but think about the first time that you looked at someone and was excited about seeing that person. I'm not trying to speak on a sexual nature, but maybe I'm in some respect, but you did see that person and you were attracted to that person. Think about that. So we're going to come back after the break, and we're going to get into a little more discussion, because I think there's a lot to be learned here. And look, like I said, I am not a psychologist, right? I am not some kind of biologist or whatever. So this is just me thinking out loud, y'all. So stick with us. We'll be right back after this short break on the battlefield with Chris and Trey.
Jones. I have believed from the very beginning these are real grassroots uprisings all over the Middle East, North Africa. But when the globalists came out and bragged that they were behind El Baradi and others and are trying to take credit for it, clearly they knew that these rebellions were coming, so they triggered it to make sure their people got in. So I think everybody who's been looking at this from different perspectives has been right.
We're on the march. The Empire's on the run. Alex Jones.
Weekdays at 1 on WGSO. What are you doing to stop traffic? When your business is ready to wow the pants off customers, visit Sir Speedy. We produce quality signs, posters, banners, and more. that are just a trick for trade shows, promotions, events, and product launches. Whether you're taking it to the street, the floor, or the counter, bigger is always better. For more information or to get a quote, go to SurSpeedyNewOrleans.com.
This is Michael Savage. Give me 15 minutes and I'll give you America. I'm not only delighted, but I'm excited to be back on radio in New Orleans, the city I love most, right here on 990 AM WGSO. I love the Antiques District. You, the listener, demanded it, and your demands have now been met. Michael Savage and the Savage Nation return not only to New Orleans, but back on WGSO 990 AM. Tune in weeknights from 9 p.m. to midnight for the Michael Savage Show on the Savage Nation.
Savage. Hey folks, this is Jeff Cruere. Join me at 7 a.m. till 11 right here on WGSO 990 AM for Ringside Politics with a Punch. We're going to be bringing you great guests. We'll discuss the latest hot topics and, of course, taking your phone calls. On Monday, Chad Rogers joins us of DeadPelican.com. We'll look at the upcoming primaries in Pennsylvania and other states, and also gun control measures being debated in the New Orleans City Council. All of that and more right here on Ringside from 7 to 11 on WGSO.
I don't believe it. My savings are gone. They're gone.
You're kidding.
Nope, they're gone. They're gone.
Okay, all right. Think about it. Where did you have them last?
I remember I was home, then I took them, and then I spent them on that vacation to Aruba. Then I bought this miniature suit of armor I saw in the in-flight magazine.
And that's the last you saw of your savings?
Yes.
This is so weird.
I know, right?
Weird? Not really. Not saving now means no money later. You'd be surprised how quickly a little money from every paycheck can really add up. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
The armor is cool, though. Oops. I think I broke its gauntlet.
You broke my favorite part.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard. So you don't need to mooch off your friends.
You gonna finish that grape?
You mean the one in my mouth?
You don't need to stop buying the necessities.
What you're smelling is a natural musk.
Ew.
You don't need to be a medical test subject.
How do you feel?
Mostly okay. Sometimes, though.
You don't need to get a second job as a stuntman.
We need a new stuntman. Let's break for lunch.
You just need an internet connection. Don't get left behind. Start your personal savings plan with the tips and tools on feedthepig.org. That way, you don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
All right, deal.
Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
We're here to fix the machine.
A little Prince for you all, folks. I know send out our prayers and thoughts to the family and the fans, because I mean, obviously, if someone of this stature leaves the earth, he's obviously left an impression. So, great artist, man. I tell you what, I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and there was something about Prince that just, I can say, for the most part, I was a fan of all types of music, mostly heavy metal and stuff like that. I was a headbanger when I was a kid, but I always go back to things like Prince, go back to The Cure. I was a music fan, right? There wasn't a whole lot that I didn't listen to. In fact, I think my first, believe it or not, Chris, my first record was It's Tricky, 12-inch, by Run DMC. And I think my second one, I think my second one was like Duran Duran or something like that. And so now that y'all can all make fun of me. But so we're talking about something that's actually a pretty controversial subject, about whether or not our sexuality is a choice. And look, full disclaimer, I am not a doctor by any means. And in fact, I'm looking for answers to this, because I think that this particular question is behind so much. Think about this. If we in this day and age can determine whether or not, by choice, if we are a male or female, even know that we have certain sexual, I guess you could say, mechanisms, or what's the proper word? Like, to be a little bit scientific here, right? We have certain body parts, if you will, that determine our sexuality or gender. But yet we can still have the choice to determine whether or not we're male or female. Why would we not have the choice to determine our sexuality? Why does it have to work one way and not the other, right? So I think that there's a big question to be had here, and I see this debate quite often. In fact, recently I was on a debate, like I do all the time, got on Facebook, and I was debating with somebody. And by the way, if you want to talk about this, give me a call, 504-556-9696. So I got into a debate with someone online about this, and I was wanting to understand where he was coming from, and of course it came up to this particular topic about a choice, and I told him that I thought that choice was the way to go. I thought it was that we had a choice. I mean, you're pro-choice, right, if you're a liberal? And he was a liberal. I was like, you're pro-choice. Why would you not be pro-choice in determining, whether or not you are attracted to a female or male in whatever orientation you want to be? Right? If you want to be a male or female, the LGBT, I always forget the initials. Why is one of them have a choice and one of them doesn't have a choice? I mean, at the end of the day, if there's a choice here, then doesn't that kind of free up a lot? And of course, I always get that there's a lot of miserable people that would rather be straight and not be gay. I was like, well, there's a lot of miserable people that do a lot of things, like do drugs and all these other things that are not acceptable to society as we know it, and they involved in these type of things. So that's not a good case for it. And so he basically told me, this is a quote, he said, did you wake up one day and decide, I think I'm going to be sexually aroused by a body part X, or one day when you were in puberty, you just saw a picture of a body part X and bam, boing, you were aroused. It just happened, right? Is that basically his case? Was that it was something that didn't take any thought at all. It just was a biological reaction to seeing something, and that may be the case, right? So my first thought was, I never psychoanalyzed what actually, I guess, made me excited, right, or aroused me. The question required me to reach back in my memory for times in which I had become, I guess, excited, and okay, that was kind of weird, but I tried. I wanted to go back and try to figure that out because I'm an intellectual, right? And the memories of when I was most attracted to another person in a sense like this was when I really liked the entire person. It was somebody that I, that there was something about that person. It wasn't just simply the physical attraction, right? It was the whole person. It wasn't just a physical thing, and maybe that makes me, I guess, an anomaly, and rather someone that is, with self-control and prudence regarding what my future was going to be, right? So I can tell you that my wife is unlike any woman. I would have been in, I would have been in my teens or 20s when I'm trying to go back and think of all this stuff. But I think that a lot of this stuff really is a matter of so many different things. I mean, you can even go back to Freud. I mean, I don't know if you all ever read Freud, but Freud, man, I tell you what, he's got some really twisted things. Like something like, I think one of his things was the Oedipus complex, where the man wanted to be with his mother and kill his father. All these crazy psychoanalytical things, a way to look at stuff. And so I started I wanted to understand the science of it. Like, I was looking for scientific evidence, right? The people on the left always say there's a science behind this. This is all science, which to me, a lot of science is faith, right? You believe something and you set out to prove it. And then you find a bunch of evidence, and at some point there becomes a truth behind it. So I'm not negating science, but if I'm going to look into something to dispute this, obviously there's got to be some science involved. I mean, we hear it all the time that it's not a choice. So, well, there's got to be science, right? Well, no, I haven't found any science, and I'm looking for it. So if there's any science out there, by all means, send it to me. You can send it to me at Lanterns Buzz on Twitter, or you can go to facebook.com/Lanterns Buzz. Just post it on my page. I'll take a look at it. I'll respond, right? So there's some neuroscience behind some of this, and what I've actually learned was that physical arousal involves chemicals in the brain that have profound influence on memory, okay? Which is interesting, because the chemical aspect of it to me is like there's a static thing, right? Just chemicals happen, but the memory aspect of it is something that I think is more to what we've learned. So these chemicals don't just appear in our bodies when a set of breasts appear before us, right? Attractions are memories, not the other way around. You know, how many times you hear like your girlfriend or if you're your gal and you hear from your boyfriend, and I'm not, and typically married people have already learned this lesson, but you hear like, oh, my girlfriend and I used to do this, all these memories, right? Well, it brings back a chemical reaction in their mind. It's a memory, right? So I looked a little bit more into this, and when I found out was that when sexually aroused, our brain releases a dopamine, right? It releases dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter involved in a lot of functions, including pleasure, desire, arousal, attraction. And when we see an image of a woman or man that we are attracted to, our bodies go through a number of different things. First thing we do is think with our brain, right? So we see things, and then we have this image that goes into our mind. That's the entry point of this particular image in our eyes, and it goes to our brain. Do we think about how attractive the person is? I mean, I do. If I see an attractive person, I say, well, what's making that person attractive? And typically that ends me getting me in trouble, right? Because I'm usually with my wife. She's got her eyes on me. So what comes first is the thoughts or the chemicals. That's the question, right? Does the chemicals create the thoughts or vice versa? So our thoughts and dopamine produce the desire, and then we choose to act on the desires or not. That's I think the big question here. So once our bodies become overcome with desire and attraction, and we choose to pursue the attraction, the sexual interaction stimulates our bodies in a way that perpetuate what ultimately becomes intercourse, right? We're all adults. We can talk about this stuff. I know there's some blushing going on out there, right? So stimulation then becomes, something more. And I'm not going to get into all the graphic details of what happens when there's too much of that, right? But there's a neurotransmitter, another one that's introduced called oxytocin. I always get those mixed up, right? You hear about Oxycontin and people abusing it, but basically, I think Oxycontin stimulates oxytocin. Anyway, I digress. So this other neurotransmitter, it actually goes into effect, and it's associated with attachment. This is a chemical that arguably creates the bond with our partner. So, you always used to hear those crazy Christians that I would say, well, you should wait until you get married to have sex. Well, that was the religious version of the chemical side of this, or the science behind this. Don't sleep with someone if you don't want to be with them, because what happens is your brain gets an attraction to this person, and then forever you always want to be with that person, right? How many times have you heard people that actually the first time they ever experienced a sexual encounter, that they're always being attracted to that person? It was their first, quote unquote, right? I know this is all very touchy-feely, blushy type of stuff, but hey, think about this. I mean, this is really important stuff, and if we educate ourselves, we can at least come to a conclusion. We may agree to disagree, but it's definitely something worth exploring. Are these chemicals coincidental? Oxytocin and what's the other one? I have it written down here. Where is it at? Dopamine. Okay. So let's kind of take this, I guess, to the next level. And so if I was in a drunken state, let's say, and was aroused and decided to fornicate with someone else of, say, the same sex, most likely I would be attracted or attached to that man due to these chemicals, right? So was that a predestined thing? In other words, these chemicals are already there, and these decisions and had nothing to do with that? Was none of this a choice? So this brings up a ton of different questions, because I can tell you that the first time I ever had an experience with a woman, it was a confusing experience. I mean, I think for anybody that had to experience any kind of sexual encounter, it was probably the first time was somewhat maybe a confusing time, right? I mean, you often hear about these horror stories, right? Come on, y'all. I know y'all driving. He's like, I can't believe this guy's talking about this stuff. It's real. This is some of the biggest things that drives us as human beings is our sexuality. So if we fail to engage on trying to understand that, don't you think we maybe fail to engage in understanding our humanity? And I think to me these are very important questions, and I hate to put it on the backside, no pun intended, because I don't want to engage in this conversation because it's going to make me embarrassed. I'm a human being and I want to know, right? Don't we all want to know? So to me, there's a lot of things that are attached to this. If my position is correct, think about the idea of pornography, right? Pornography is a very dangerous thing, right? So we're going to talk about that after the break. I want to get into this question of what does pornography do? And here we go. I know here's this Christian on the radio station talking about not want to watch pornography. Well, let's explore this a little bit and understand it. Not quite honestly, I don't care what you do in the privacy of your home. So if you're interested in this, give us a call, 504-556-9696. You're listening to Chris and Trey's MIA on the Battlefield Live radio program, WGSO990 AM.
Jeff Cruer.
I'm Eric Asher. You can always catch us on the radio right here on WGSO 990 AM.
Did you know you can catch us on TV?
That's right, Jeff. We're on WLAE TV.
Join me every Friday on Ringside Politics with a Punch at 7:30 with a rebroadcast Sunday at 10 p.m.
Check me out every Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m. and a rebroadcast Friday at 10 p.m. for Inside New Orleans Sports. That's WLAE TV, Cox Channel 14, Satellite, and AT&T Channel 32, Charter Channel 11. Don't miss it.
The Bible affirms that people of faith, like the early Pilgrims, are a moral beacon for our nation. Political leaders dismantle the Constitution, deny our God-given rights while implementing their New World Order. The modern pulpit is silenced, and people of faith are unaware of the tactics used to undermine the biblical foundation of America. For solutions to win our country back, shining a light exposing their globalist tactics while revealing the best Pilgrim solutions. Visit pilgrimsbeacon.com. That's pilgrimsbeacon.com.
This advertisement does not constitute an offer to sell a franchise. The offer of a franchise can only be made through the delivery of a franchise disclosure document.
Fresh Healthy Vending is a new company that is revolutionizing the vending machine business by filling them with healthy and natural foods. That's right. Protein and energy drinks, teas and juices, yogurts, fresh fruits and veggies, soy milk, natural cereals, granola bars. Can you imagine that? It's like having a whole food store in a machine. And you can get in on the ground floor by getting your own Fresh Healthy Vending franchise. You can have your own small business placing healthy food vending machines all over your area in places like schools and hospitals and businesses and airports and other high-traffic areas. Locations that embrace the idea because, they make money too. Full training and support and assistance in acquiring locations. It's all about timing, folks. Pick up the phone, make the call to Fresh Healthy Vending, and get all the details on what could be your big life moment. Get Fresh Healthy Vending franchise information now. Call 800-424-8282. 424-8282. That's 800-424-8282.
What are you doing to stop traffic? When your business is ready to wow the pants off customers, visit Sir Speedy. We produce quality signs, posters, banners, and more that are just a trick for trade shows, promotions, events, and product launches. Whether you're taking it to the street, the floor, or the counter, bigger is always better. For more information or to get a quote, go to SirSpeedyNewOrleans.com.
Hey folks, this is Jeff Cruer. Join me at 7 a.m. till 11 right here on WGSO 990 AM for Ringside Politics with a Punch. We're going to be bringing you great guests. We'll discuss the latest hot topics and, of course, taking your phone calls. On Monday, Chad Rogers joins us of DeadPelican.com. We'll look at the upcoming primaries in Pennsylvania and other states, and also gun control measures being debated in the New Orleans City Council. All of that and more right here on Ringside from 7 to 11 on WGSO.
We're here to fix the machine.
What up, folks? Having a pretty interesting discussion here. And, man, I tell you what, this topic here, is one that has haunted me a long time, because I really am a researcher. I enjoy looking into things and finding things, and I'm willing to be convinced, right? If there's science out there, and there is science out there that leans in either direction, but it's nothing that I've found that is actually compelling enough to change my opinion at this point in time. It used to be before, because I've met people that were miserable, and I was like, man, they can't be wanting to do that by choice. But then I realized, hey, well, there's other people that do other goofy stuff in their life that make them unhappy. So it kind of, and look, I have a lot of friends that I shouldn't say a lot of friends, but I got a few friends that are homosexuals that actually I spend a lot of time with during Mardi Gras and have a great time. I don't judge them. I don't tell them anything. That's their life. I respect that. I'm libertarian in that respect, but I do believe that I want to look at it in a way that's intellectual and understand it. So I'd like to take a couple of callers. We got the Flaming Liberal, quote unquote, on line one. So Flaming Liberal, what's going on, man?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. Katrina evacuee. Found a new home here.
Okay.
And I'm sure my reputation precedes me. And I've been flaming before flaming was cool. I know more about politics than Bush knows how to mix a double vodka martini.
I love a double vodka martini, by the way.
Yeah, so do I. Now, I don't know what topic to discuss first, but, I have a girlfriend who's a stripper in Atlanta.
Okay.
And I have no problem with that. She's not doing anything criminal.
And guess what? I don't have a problem with that either.
She doesn't drink. She's not.
I mean, I wouldn't date a stripper, but for you to date a stripper, that's your choice in life. I'm a libertarian in that respect.
She enjoys it, makes real good money.
Right.
And she doesn't use. I don't use drugs. I don't use alcohol. Don't smoke. Never have. Never will.
So it sounds like she's a capitalist.
Well, I'm sure she is.
Okay.
Now, and women are probably my weakness.
Okay.
But now, when I open a copy, well, let me say this: I am totally blind.
Right.
Before I lost my eyesight.
Wait a second. So were you born that way, or
no? I have retinitis pigmentosa. It's a genetic disease that slowly progresses.
Okay.
Okay. But I did have eyesight. Many when I was up until say I was in my late 30s.
Okay.
But when I opened a centerfold, when I was able to look at Playboy, see a gorgeous centerfold,
right?
Nice rack, nice legs, pretty hair,
absolutely,
right? I felt certain responses in my body.
Sure, me too.
And certain emotions and chemical reactions would take place.
Sure.
And now if I were to open, say, a centerfold of Playgirl and see a naked man, I'd want to vomit.
Okay.
Okay. Now I could choose to eat dinner out of my toilet, but I could make a conscious decision to do that, but I would have no satisfaction, no fulfillment to do it. So just like I have, and what the reason is scientifically, we don't know yet, but I think one day we will.
I agree.
People do not choose their sexual identity.
But you're saying it in the same sentence of saying that there's no scientific evidence of it. So I would disagree with you, but I'm okay with you, discussing it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, there's theories. I don't know if anything's been proven about why people
on both sides of the discussion. There's theories, right?
Well, yeah, there's theories, of course. I'm not that well educated on the topic. I'm not a medical doctor or a psychologist to really explain it very well what the theories are. But I know, and I grew up in the French Quarter, half block from Bourbon Street. I had a gay neighbor who owned a men's clothing store in Royal Street.
Mm-hmm.
He never molested me. We were neighbors. We would talk, and I've had many gay friends over the years. And look, I knew a gay guy. He was famous on radio years ago, Mr. Anita Bryan. He said he went to a Bible school, to a Bible college. He fasted, he prayed because he didn't want to be gay, but his gayness would always take control of his feelings and his emotions. So I have no doubt that we, for whatever reason, scientifically and biologically, we are given our sexual identity. I don't know why I'm turned on by a beautiful woman. And my old daddy told me there must be a God, because only a God can make something as beautiful as a woman.
You're absolutely right. But let me ask you this, okay? So how much of that do you think is a cultural thing? Let me ask you this. You obviously were born of a man and a woman, right? In other words, you were born from a woman, but there was the procreation or the aspect of this relationship between a man and a woman created you, correct? So,
of course.
So I would assume that, and I don't know anything about your background, so I'm maybe asking some personal questions. If they're too personal, that's fine. Just let me know.
My name's David Bellinger. There isn't anything in my life I'm ashamed of, but go ahead.
So was there any culture in your life that may have influenced the way that you looked at homosexuality? Because I can tell you from me personally, I've grown up in a culture that looked at homosexuality in a way that is kind of looking down on. I don't necessarily think or want to say. Actually, I know for a fact I don't want to say that homosexuality is a something that I'm out here trying to fight against and all this. I'm simply wanting to explain it. I have homosexual friends that I enjoy hanging around with, and I don't necessarily agree with their lifestyle or would want to partake in their lifestyle. But as there's homosexuals that wish to be with other of the same sex, as a Christian, if I look at this from a moralistic, I guess, religious or spiritual standpoint, there's also thieves out there. There's also just the fact that I'm married and I look at another woman, and if I have a sexual thought, that is just as sinful in the eyes of God as it is if I was a man looking at another man in that same way, right? So my biggest thing is how much of these things that we like our attractions to other people, how much of it is cultural, right?
Well,
Does that make sense?
Look, I know there's a cultural aspect because many people grew up in a very strictly, say, quote, Christian, unquote, family environment where homosexuality was condemned, just like many people grew up in a family that was racist and black people and Jewish people were constantly being ridiculed and condemned. And people automatically were instilled with that type of animosity and even hatred. And when they got older, they just had this natural resentment towards gay people, black people, Jewish
Absolutely.
people, or whatever. But it's not based in any type of rational thinking. But I think a lot of people have exploited the gay issue. Many
I agree.
church leaders who are fanatically anti-gay. Many of them. There was a case in Atlanta where a church leader evidently was having sex with young boys.
Absolutely. Look, so David, I got to take one more call before we go, but I do want to appreciate your call, and please call back because I enjoy talking with people.
Again?
What's that?
When will you be on again?
I will be on next Saturday at 5 o'clock Central Standard Time. 4 o'clock. I'm sorry, 4 o'clock.
I'll debate anybody.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon, David. Follow us on Facebook. All right, and we want to bring on Phil, the Patriot from the Patriot Cave. What's going on, Phil?
Hey, good afternoon, brother. Since I'm greatly blessed. Hey, thanks for having the blaming Thibodeau on because his words reveal his true agenda. Let me tell you something. That guy is a pedophiliac.
Okay.
A pedophile, which is pedophilia, and a maniac.
This is why we call this the battlefield, folks.
Listen, I work where I meet a lot of gays and lesbians, and I hear what they say, and I even know what they talk about. Gays and lesbians love to have sex with little boys and little girls. They all say, I like them when they're young.
Phil.
That's one of the things they say. I like when they're young. Let me tell you something.
Phil, hold up. Let's explore this a little bit. We only got a few more minutes, but I want to explore this a little bit. So you think that all homosexuals want to be with boys and girls, boys and girls?
Just about all of them,
okay.
Because they watch pornography. Wow. Pornography is a form of satanic hypnosis, also known as Wicca witchcraft. They use television.
Hey, Phil. Hey, that music means it's my time to go, man. I appreciate your call, and please, and say a prayer. Say a prayer for David over there in Georgia. Look, I want to thank you all for joining us on the battlefield. You've been listening to Chris and Trey on the battlefield. Make sure you go to lanterns.buzz. Check us out there. Our social media is there. Twitter @LanternsBuzz. Facebook.com/LanternsBuzz. You can also find us on YouTube, Spreaker, Google, Stitcher, all of those different places. And we're in the GoDay Media Studio. Thank you for joining us on the battlefield. We'll be back next week on WGSO 990 AM, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama,